Alright, I got a massive haul video for you today. Lots of unisex offerings, but it's mostly men's, lots of classics, some feminine targeted releases, some fragrances I found used that are discontinued, but all here in this haul video. And I know you guys like haul videos, so if you want to find out what I purchased recently, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in today. And yes, it's a haul video, but there are some fragrances I've already reviewed or discussed on the channel. I just wanted to bring them up again in this video because they are fairly new to me in my collection, and that since not everyone watches every video that I put out, and in case you haven't caught the videos, you'll get to find out what some of my latest fragrances I have here that I've done videos about. Either way though, lots of new stuff, some stuff I've been waiting for, some classics that I just decided to buy, feminine ones, unisex ones, men's fragrances. But before I get to the fragrances, if this is your first time tuning into the channel and you still haven't subscribed, please do click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. Let's get right to it. First two fragrances I'm going to talk to you about are Spiritueuse Double Vanille and also Santal Pau Rosa from the house of GUERLAIN. This is from their new bottles, new designs, custom caps, and custom ribbon bottles that are just launched. These I bought from Saks Fifth Avenue in New York City, and I think they are an authorized official retailer, and there's probably like only 4 doors, which is what I was told that these are in, not here in San Francisco. Disappointing. But I'm glad to have these, and this one I featured over the weekend in a video of fragrances I wish were a little more intense. Definitely I wish this was a little more intense, but still very, very delicious, boozy, butterscotchy vanilla fragrance. Yum, yum, yum. And then Santal Pau Rosa to me is a resinous sandalwood, and you've got the creamy aspects of the sandalwood, but there's a lot of dry qualities as well here. There's supposed to be rose, but the rose is not necessarily overwhelming. Like, it's a dry rose, not necessarily overly jammy, but there's some light jammy hints as well. But it's mostly leather, resins, sandalwood. It's a great scent. I want to explore this collection further. I like the new bottles. And even though I said these remind me of the Givenchy L'Atelier fragrances, yes, some of you pointed out that GUERLAIN used to make bottles like this back in the day, but I was not around back then, so I wasn't aware. Anyway, check these out. Great collection, and I like the customization you could do. You can choose the different color caps, different color ribbons, and this is what I ended up with over the phone with my sales associate that I deal with over at Saks Fifth Avenue in New York City. Anyway, this is Spiritueuse Double Vanille. This is Santal Pau Rosa. First two fragrances I'm going to discuss with you. And then the next fragrance I bought that I also reviewed just recently, a couple days, less than a week ago. This is from the house of Marley, Parfums de Marley. This is Oriana, this one right here. And again, I like this combination. It's that kind of similar fragrance to Love Don't Be Shy, but what they've done here with this one, they've added some fruity touches to it. So there is that different distinguishing factor between Love Don't Be Shy. And I get the whole Love Don't Be Shy thing, that creamy, vanillic creaminess contrasted with Orange Blossom, but as I said, this particular one adds the twist of the fruitiness, and I think the fruitiness matches the color of the bottle because we've got raspberry in here and a few other fruits. It's quite delicious. I'm a little underwhelmed with it because I wanted a little more intensity. I just don't have that with this particular fragrance, sadly, and I come to expect Parfums de Marley to give us some intense experiences. Either way, we'll see how this does. But I have this feeling they're already kind of like ready to do an exclusive of this one. Will they? I guess Delina did have 3 different flankers. Cassili did not, which came after Delina. This, let's see how it does. But either way, go catch my review for this one if you want to find out more about Oriana from the house of Parfums de Marley. Alright, let's get to some classic fragrances that are not necessarily too old, but that are discontinued. The first one, I ended up finding a used bottle, but it's fairly full. It's from the house of Gucci. It's Gucci Pour Homme 2. I know this one has a lot of fans, but it is discontinued, sadly, and this I bought for 35 bucks. Sadly, it was without a cap, like this, but I had another bottle which was 3/4 full, so I'm using the cap from that on here. But it's a great scent. It's tea. It's a little smoky. It's a little leathery, very ozonic and watery, but a delicious fragrance. Gucci Pour Homme 2 is a great fragrance. Sad it's discontinued, but we can't have everything, but I'm assuming it just kind of became not a very popular and frequent seller, so Gucci discontinued it. Obviously, Gucci Pour Homme 1 was discontinued a lot earlier, and I think a few years ago, Pour Homme 2 got discontinued. So that's great to have an extra bottle of. This one I never had, and also it's a tester I bought used. This is Bergamotto. This is from Zenya. I believe the name is Bergamotto. It's Zenya is definitely the house. Thankfully, I'm always suspicious, so I had to smell this before I bought it. It's a friend selling it. It's a tester, it says right here. It does smell great. It doesn't seem like it's turned or anything, so it was kept great. It's a great, fresh, very zingy, uplifting, sparkly bergamot fragrance. I never gotten into this particular house too much, although I have another fragrance that I bought recently as well. But I'm glad to have this one. I think it would be perfect when it's really, really hot outside. So I'll store it away in a very, very cool place. I'll pull it out maybe kind of randomly, very, very occasionally, but I'd like to keep it because it's discontinued. Sadly, I gotta have to wash that sticker off of there. It says tester. So the next fragrance I'm talking about is another Gucci fragrance. This one's targeted to the ladies, and this one I kind of bought because it was fairly inexpensive, 35 bucks for each of these. This one did come with a cap. The Gucci Pour Homme 2 did not come with a cap, but this is Gucci Eau de Parfum. Anybody know this one? It's my collector side of me. I like finding deals on fragrances, and this particular one definitely was a deal for $35 because I think it sells for a lot more. And to me, it's kind of like a warm amber, smoky kind of a fragrance. Let me know if anybody knows this one. I don't know how popular it was. It was from the 2000s, and I believe it got discontinued around the early part of 2010s, maybe up until the middle of 2010s. Either way, glad to have this because it was really inexpensive for 35 bucks, and I can display it here with all my discontinued fragrances. So when a client comes in and wants to smell some stuff that they had forgotten about or wanted to kind of like revisit, I'd have a bottle here. So Gucci Eau de Parfum, and that's a ladies targeted offering. So those are 3 used bottles that I bought, and I don't mind buying used bottles. I don't, as long as they're kind of kept in perfect condition, and these 3 definitely are in perfect condition. So a new fashion house launched fragrances for the first time. Well, they're not a new fashion house. They've been around for a while. Years, I believe. It's Moncler. They launched 2 fragrances, one for men, one for women. So we've got the this is the Pour Homme in this box. This is the Parfum in this box. And I've done videos on these fragrances. Go catch them to find out more information. But here's how the Pour Homme is. They've got this thing where it does this flashing, neon, neon kind of a thing, name display. You can also change the name on here as well. But the men's is kind of like a foresty, green, pine, woody, grassy, earthy experience with pine, vetiver, and aromatic notes. I like this one, but now that I've had it and I'm wearing it because I did a first impressions video, I think the women's is a little more solid to me in comparison to the men's. The women's, on the other hand, to me, let's put this on as well, is powdery but frosty, kind of like they're inspired by skiing because they do a lot of like outerwear, jackets, puffy coats and things like that. And so that's kind of their inspiration. But I feel like the bottles themselves are very young. I don't know, do they look young to you? Also kind of bulky, a little, too futuristic or something. They don't match the luxury quality of the brand themselves, but I think they're appealing to youngsters here. Either way, check out the fragrances. I mean, we're not breaking any new ground with these fragrances, but I think they're pretty solid releases for designer fragrances. Again, not breaking any ground. And I feel like between the 2, the ladies is a little better in quality and intensity in comparison to the men's. I felt like this lasted a little longer on me in comparison to this. Let me turn that off. It's off. One other thing I should say, this ladies is created by Quinton Biche along with another perfumer who I'm forgetting now who she is. It's a woman. But this does remind me of Loewe 001 Man a little bit. There you go. Go figure this. Like, this is a feminine targeted release. It reminds me of a men's fragrance because Loewe 001 Man, I found out recently, was created by Quinton Biche. He actually commented on my photo on Instagram and said he created it. I didn't know who created that fragrance because the brand didn't advertise the perfumer. So it makes sense. This kind of reminds me of that fragrance. It is sweeter, it is more feminine, and it's powdery vanillic experience, lightly vegetal, but I get the qualities of the powderiness here that I get in Loewe 001 Men. Either way, this is Moncler pour Femme, and of course I showed you Moncler pour Homme. If you want to find out more about these, go catch my review. It's been live for a good week now. So this is one that you guys have been asking me to do for a while, and I finally picked them up. I found a great deal at Saks Fifth Avenue. They were having 15% off beauty there recently, and I decided to buy them. And this is the collection from Aesop, their new OTHERTOPIAS collection of fragrances, which includes KARST in this box, and this is the bottle right here. I know many of you have asked me to do a review of these. There's also MIRACETI or MIRACETI here, and there's also EREMIA, this one right here. So can you guess which one of the three is my favorite? First I was falling for MIRACETI or MIRACETI, but after testing a little more, I ended up really enjoying EREMIA. So stay tuned for videos on these fragrances. They're definitely in line with the Aesop kind of branding as far as quality and style of fragrances. Out of the three, my least favorite is KARST, because it is definitely marine aquatic, but it's not overwhelming with the marine touches, so it's tolerable. But still, I prefer EREMIA, and I think I'm favoring EREMIA. And then MIRACETI is quite close behind it. Green fragrance, very green. This is also green, but it's more aromatic, woody green, but beautiful fragrances. And this weekend I featured Huile in my video as well for fragrances that smell great, but are I wish that they were a little more potent or intense. These are similar. They're not giving us anything beast mode. A lot of these very consumer-friendly luxury brands are not necessarily giving us fragrances that are overwhelming and things like that. And again, that's not always necessarily required, but sometimes I crave it because I want a fragrance to last, and you know, for it to dry down and I can smell it hours and hours and later. A lot of these fragrances will not do. But either way, stay tuned for a video on these three fragrances. Very soon I will be doing a video for these, so you can find out more about them when I launch that video. How about some men's classics? This is one that I wanted to get recently. I've been seeing somebody by the... I don't know if you follow me on Instagram or some other Instagrammers. There's a guy there by the name of Anosmiphobic. I follow him, we communicate. I like his taste in fragrances. He likes a lot of vintage men's fragrances. This one I saw on one of his Instagram posts a long time ago. And I wanted a bottle for the longest time because I was always a fan of Geoffrey Beane's fragrances, but the only one I liked was not this one. I'm drawing a blank with the name of the other fragrance, but this is Bowling Green, and I recently didn't find any deals on this particular fragrance, so I decided to snatch up 2 bottles. And this one doesn't disappoint. It smells really, really great. It's very, very classic, aromatic, kind of like Drakkar Noir-esque, and it's really, really smells great. It doesn't smell like it's been reformulated to death and doesn't smell kind of that great. So it's a great aromatic, fresh, spicy, as I said, fougere, barbershop-y style fragrance. What's the other one, the other fragrance from this house that I really, really love, but I'm drawing a blank with the name? Either way, 2 fragrances from this house, both of them are amazing, and this is Bowling Green. This is one that I've wanted to pick up as well. This is from one of the very, very first Versace fragrances, if not the first one. This is Versace, it's Homme, right there. Very, very classic fragrance. It smells like it's been reformulated, but it does hint at the original smell, and it's good to have. This is the latest formulation. It's the latest release. It's not a vintage bottle here, unfortunately, so it's nostalgic to have things like this in my collection and to remember how fragrances smell. And then of course the logo on here is so similar to what their logo looked like when they were first starting out and things like that. So good to have this one. Again, it's an aromatic, spicy, a little animalic kind of a take on men's fragrance from, I think it's from the late 80s. So that's Versace Homme. This is a brand that I don't know much about and I recently discovered, and this is a house called Tesori de Orient, just right here. And this is their Myrrh fragrance. Myrrh is myrrh. It's a resin. It can be sweet. It's a little sweet here. It's a little fizzy. I find myrrh in fragrances can be a little soda cola fizzy-esque, and here it's a very, very warm experience, and also very resinous and sweet. So it's a very, very pleasant fragrance, and also not very expensive. This was like $35 to $40, which I bought on Amazon, and they have a bunch of different fragrances, so I want to explore the house a little more. But I decided to start out with Mira from Tesori de Orient. I don't know if you guys know this house. Let me know. Put a comment down. This next one's a ladies targeted fragrance. This is from the house of Youp. This is Le Ban. I've been wanting to get Le Ban for the longest time. After I did a video with Dana of cheap fragrances, going back to 2 years ago, I've wanted to get a bottle of this, and I finally have it. It's not necessarily expensive. It's fairly inexpensive. And it also reminds me of What We Do in Paris is Secret a little bit. It smells not as luxury as quality as the other fragrance, but if you're looking for a cheap alternative, this will definitely satisfy. So it's good to have this particular fragrance. I don't have a lot of Youp in my collection. This is one of a few now, and I'm kind of digging into these brands that are not necessarily easily found here, and this one's definitely worth it. It's a sweet, resinous, ambery experience that has some freshness to it as well. So this is Youp Le Ban. So this is the other Zenya fragrance that I was mentioning earlier. This is Zenya Intenso, this one right here. So this is one that I bought from a Estee Lauder, what do you call it, outlet store. I found a really, really great deal on it. It was like discounted further and further because everything in that store is 50% off after a certain spend amount. Otherwise it's 40% off. And then there was an additional 10 or 15% off on this, so it turned out to be a great deal. So Zenya Intenso is definitely a warm, kind of tonka bean-esque fragrance that I'm glad to have, so I'm going to put it to use to see how things go with this one. It was not expensive, and also another brand that I can't find a lot of fragrances here near me, so finding things like this that I've never sampled before is a great thing at places that sell them. Building the collection is turning out to be great, and this one's great to have. And it's a brand I don't know too much about, sadly, and recently I found out they are being dropped by Estee Lauder, so where are they going? I don't remember what I read about it. But this is Zenya Intenso, a great fragrance to have in my collection. Let me know if anybody's a fan of these fragrances. This one I recently mentioned in a video of fragrances that were created by Francis Kurkdjian. This is a fragrance that I really enjoyed back when it first came out. It is a wimp now. It's like a major, major wimp. This is Elizabeth Arden's tea, green tea I mean. I found it for about $14. Very, very cheap. I think this would be a great layering tool, like layer it with something molecule 1, molecule 2, maybe even molecule 4, or you can find something a little more substantial to layer it with, because it is very, very weak. The reformulation has left it very, very weak. Or maybe it was already a very weak fragrance, but to me I remember this to be a lot more hefty, so it's kind of a wimp now. But if you like wimpy fragrances, this might be it. It's very, very inexpensive. It still smells great. I think it definitely is worth having, but because I like that smell, I bought it, and I said, okay, it's only $14, but might as well have it. So layer it with something, or wear it on a very, very hot day and smell fresh and herbal and green tea-esque. So that's Elizabeth Arden green tea. That's created by Francis Kurkdjian. I was not aware until I went through my collection. This next one's from the house of Puig. This is Aqua Quorum. I've always known Quorum, never really dug into Aqua Quorum. This is created by Alberto Morillas, and unfortunately this came like without cellophane on it, and it had spillage on it because the bottle is not necessarily all the way up to the top. But this smells really, really good. Really great. Although there is a metallic touch in there, but on me it develops into smelling really, really great. So Aqua Quorum, I think it's a great scent. I still prefer the original Quorum, but nice to have this particular one. And I like the color combination. It's very late 80s to me. I don't know if you guys remember these kind of colors, bright yellows, bright reds, and things like that. It reminds me of the late 80s. Either way, a great scent, I think. I think the reformulation is still fairly decent as well. It doesn't smell like it's gone bad. So this next fragrance, I just took a chance. I read about it and I'm like, this is really, really inexpensive. $14. No, I think it was even $12. And I bought it and I sprayed it as soon as I got it, and I was like, wow, this smells amazing for a $14 or $12 men's fragrance. This is from the house of Daniel Hector, and this is Character. And once again, I'm gonna mention Anosmophobic on Instagram again. He actually Instagrammed this recently, and I wrote to his, I wrote a comment and said, I just bought that one. I think his was a vintage. Mine is the current version. And if you feel like old school men's fragrances that still smell great in reformulation, definitely try this one. It is really, really good. You gotta like old school men's fragrances though. I mean, it's so good, so good. Let me know if you know this one. It's Daniel Hector, a character. Let me know, put a comment down so I can find out. This, on the other hand, is a freaking disappointment. I wore this back in the mid-90s. It's gone through some major reformulations. It's from the house of Giorgio Beverly Hills. I believe that's who it is. God, I'm not even seeing their name. It's Wings for Men. It's from the same people that released the Giorgio fragrances. This, to me, smells like dryer sheets. It's gone really, really bad reformulation, really bad. I guess for nostalgia reasons, it's good to have, but to me, it smells like dryer sheets. Like, I don't want to wear dryer sheets as a fragrance. Do I? Do you want to wear dryer sheets? It's currently under Revlon, just like Halston is. I don't think Revlon is in the fragrance game to really make fragrances smell great. Sadly, it's disappointing to have, but for nostalgia reasons, I think it's good to have anyway. But this, on the other hand, is another classic men's fragrance. Really, really worth it. This is Oscar de la Renta's Pour Louis. Oh my God, it's good. Really, really great smelling fragrance and an amazing looking bottle. That bottle is so freaking classy. I love this bottle. I'm so glad I bought this one. Once again, this was inexpensive, but this was not as cheap as some of the other ones. This was probably around $35. But a great, classy, masculine, old school fragrance that still smells fairly decent. I wonder how good the original, like in vintage formula, smells in comparison to this, but this is fantastic. I love this. It smells so good and such a classy bottle. The designer recently died, Oscar de la Renta recently died, but they've kept this fragrance in fairly decent condition. So this next one, Bogart. Do you know this one? Bogart Eau de Toilette. Oh my God, old school, amazing men's fragrance that's to die for, and it comes with some little aftershave lotion or balm or whatever. But this one, this is it right here. Old school, very, very old school. It smells like a pine forest with dark molasses kind of thing. So I've got to put it to use. It smells great. To me, it didn't smell as great as this one, but it still smells great. There's something about that kind of molassesy thickness in here that's just a little bit of a turnoff. Not a lot. So it kind of doesn't blend very well. But either way, though, it's still a really, really great smelling fragrance. It smells classic, but also intense in quality for a fragrance that's so inexpensive. I love that logo on top as well. But let me know if you know this house. This house has some of the best old school fragrances. And back in 2019. Winter 2019, I went to France and of course the UK. I was in a little a town in Brittany called Dinan, and I ran into a perfume shop, and that perfume shop had every single Bogart fragrance in there, and I never see Bogart anywhere. I was like in heaven. Like, I never experienced Bogart in any stores, and every single Bogart fragrance was there. I even Instagrammed about it. But a great house I want to dig further into, and I have one more from Bogart, which I don't know what I did with the box, but I think it was a tester, so I threw it away. This is Bogart's original one-man show. Who knows this one? Let me know. I've got several one-man show fragrances, but this is the original. It still smells amazing. Again, very, very inexpensive. You can get these for around $10, $15, $20. Old school, intense experiences, very, very long-lasting fragrances, but one-man show is awesome. Glad to have that one here in the collection. So this is a fragrance that I've been waiting to buy. This is much more recent. This came out last year, but it's taken so freaking long to get this fragrance. Costume National Homme. I've had it now for about 3.5 weeks, and I'm really eating it all up. In fact, check it out how much I've used. I've used so much of this because I just can't get enough of it. I haven't really Instagrammed about it because I usually don't like to Instagram about things that I'm going to review, just because I want to build up the excitement and then I can do cross promotion on it. But it smells great. everything I wanted in Costume National Homme in the Eau de Parfum version that I have more here in a more luxury, intense, dense, intensified, you know, everything is amplified and comes alive, kind of like almost like three-dimensional kind of experience, because everything is rich, the richest formula, the rawest ingredients, and the most intense notes blended together for perfection. Stay tuned for a review on this one, but I'm digging it. I'm really digging it. I think I will mention this here. I think the brand was exclusively for Barney's. The reason the fragrances are not being launched here, because this didn't launch here, I think it's because Barney's closed. And usually Barney's sold this stuff in their stores. And now that we don't have Barney's, I think the brand is not releasing fragrances here, sadly. I bought this from France. It took a while to get to me. But I've had it, like I said, for about 3.5 weeks. So hopefully I'll do a review of it very soon. And this next one's also from the house of Costume National. This is Costume National Super Gloss, fragrance created by Dominique Ropion, and this one is definitely feminine targeted, and I love the color of the, you know, the bottle here, and I love that contrast as well, the orange with that kind of like fuchsia pink. It's very fruity. It reminds me of some kind of a candy, and I'm going to dig into this a little more, but if you like candy like patchouli kind of fragrances, definitely check this one out. I don't have too much information on it because I've been really digging this one, but I will report back on this one as well. Both of them are created by Dominique Ropion, one of my favorite perfumers, obviously, you guys know. So this next one is a fun one to have. I bought this one also from the Estee Lauder outlet store. This is Clinique Happy For Men. This was lots of memories. I wore this back in the late 90s, and I do notice a difference with this one. Definitely notice it's kind of changed. You know, in the 90s it was so tart and sweet at the same time, and it was more alive. Now I feel like some of the notes have just been kind of like watered down, or they're old notes that they're still using to create the smell to be the same, but they don't smell as good, kind of a thing, you know? That's the sad part about this one. But I've been wearing it. I wore it a couple times in heat because I bought it near my mom where she lives, so it was really hot there, and I wore it a few times. I like it, but it reminds me of the original. Here's how much I've used so far, but it's definitely not the same. But still, very nostalgic, because it was one of my favorite fragrances for a long time, and I wore a lot of it, and I love the orangeness about it. It reminded me of oranges, obviously, because it's about oranges. Either way, Clinique Happy For Men. Great to have that particular fragrance. Alright, this next one I bought both the men's and the women's version. We're going to talk about the women's version first. This women's version also goes back to that video I did with Dana on the very inexpensive, cheap fragrances. This is Oxygene from the house of Lanvin. Really great fragrance. I'm shocked at how great this is, and also great looking bottle, as you can see. Both this and the men's version, I believe, were created by Alberto Morillas, and he did a great job here. This one actually to me smells great, even though it's gone through reformulations most likely. I think this one came out in the early 2000s, but really wonderful fragrance. I'll report back more on this one, but it's great to have this Oxygene by Lanvin for women in the collection. But on the other hand, the men's version in here is definitely more masculine for sure, and here's the bottle. This one actually is aromatic and spicy and a little watery as well, so I'm gonna have to wear it a little more and report back. But these were not that expensive from FragranceNet. They were around the $30 to $40 price point for these fragrances, so good to have the both. Both of them are created by Alberto Morillas, I believe, as I said. This next one, I just took a chance. I don't know anything about this house. Homme de Café. Do you know about this house? Let me know. I'm not sure about this one yet. It was very cheap. Love the bottle. Love the bottle, actually. So I'll have to try it. It's a very spicy, aromatic, and kind of ambery experience, but seems very thin. I like everything about it. The packaging, all that, you know, in the bottle. But I'm not 100% sold on the actual fragrance myself yet. So we shall see. I'll report back on that one, but it's very inexpensive. Now this one actually is great to have. I wore this one back in the early 2000s, and I decided to pick it up again. Although, here's the story with this one. It's from Paul Smith. It's Paul Smith Men. I bought it a couple times. I was placing orders at Harrods. Harrods had an for sale for like 25 bucks. It said eau de toilette. I received the bottle. It says aftershave. I'd complained. I said return it, but you're not allowed to return fragrances to them. So it just sit there. So I did it again. Same thing. Came back as an aftershave. I finally decided to like report it to my credit card company because they're advertising an eau de toilette. I'm being sent an aftershave. So I got tired of dealing with it from Harrods and having to pay all that expensive shipping. So I decided to go ahead and order a tester. This is it right here, the tester. The cap is from the actual aftershave bottles because this comes without a cap. So now that I have it and I've worn a bunch of it, it smells so good. I'm gonna have to give this to a friend who also likes it because it's only 25 bucks, and I want to get the original bottle because I don't really like to, you know, Instagram with this whole information on the back. But if you like green, grassy fragrances, definitely check that out. It is created by Nathalie Lorsan. I knew about Nathalie Lorsan before I even knew about Nathalie Lorsan. Go figure. Really love that one. Brings back so many memories of the early 2000s. This next one's one I bought from Diptyque. Limited edition fragrance called Venice. This one right here. Sadly, this is only in a 3-pack of 7.5 mLs. I smelled it in a store. I went with some friends to the grand opening of the Larkspur Diptyque boutique here in Northern California. Friends bought their own packages, so I know what the fragrance smells like. I didn't buy it at first, then I decided to go back and buy it because it really does smell great. This is what the fragrance looks like right here. So this is green. It's a very green fragrance. I think this is a little carry-along thingy. It's very green with green bell pepper, tomato leaves, and there's vetiver in there as well. Really great smelling fragrance. Wish it was in a bottle, not these little minis. And it's about $100 for this. So I had to get it because I really love the smell, really do. And I think it would be great to transport with when you're on a vacation and you don't have a lot of space to carry fragrances. You can put it in that little sleeve and carry it with you. But I think it needs warm weather, not cool weather. But it smells great like a salad. If you like the idea of a salad in a fragrance, without the dressing, of course, just the greens, check this one out. It's really good. I'm hoping they would release a full bottle version of this. It's limited edition and they will run out. So this one, I met up with a Instagrammer that lives near my mom who does perfume Instagramming. She brought some of her fragrances and she said, this is really great, you should smell it. I know the brand, it's Wilhelm Parfumerie and it's Poets of Berlin. It was like instant love with this fragrance. It smelled really great, so I had to go buy it. I bought this particular fragrance right away. But, you know, I've been wearing it here in San Francisco, which is not as warm as there in the Central Valley. And it's a fragrance that comes alive in the heat. It's a vanilla fragrance, but not necessarily overly gooey vanilla, but so good, guys. Really great. Poets of Berlin, check it out. If you don't know this one, I highly recommend it for vanilla, but it's not your intense gooey vanilla experience. So that's great from Wilhelm Parfumerie. I've got 2 more fragrances from Diptyque, L'Autois and also Omoheli. Let's talk about L'Autois first. L'Autois is a fragrance I wanted to buy from Diptyque for a long time. I finally did from the new Larkspur boutique there in Larkspur, California. Brand new Diptyque store, the 4th in the Northern California. It's a ferry ride from San Francisco. But look at that beautiful golden amber colored juice. This is all resins and amber and smoky incense kind of thing. Lots of woods as well. This is the 3rd fragrance that Diptyque had ever created. So great to have that one. Let me know if you're a fan of that one. It's really great. And then for the complete opposite experience, this particular fragrance, Omoheli. This one, it was warm there, and I sprayed this one on because I didn't know much about it, and the fragrance just totally came alive. It's a very tropical, white floral, yellow floral experience. It smells divine. Like in the heat, it smells just beautiful. It's a humid kind of an experience with the flowers. Very tropical. There could even be a little bit of a coconut in there, a little beachiness, but really delicious fragrance. Omoheli, a great fragrance. So 2 more fragrances, but these I'm not going to open. I'm just going to tell you about them because I've already discussed them in another video. I did a fragrances that are inexpensive video for men recently. And I mentioned this particular fragrance, which I ended up buying 2 more bottles of. This is Rocco Barocco Extraordinary. I don't know if you guys ended up buying them, but they are now not discontinued, but they've run out at FragranceNet. First bottles I bought for about $11, and then I think the second 2 bottles I bought for about $15. So they're all gone. I hope you guys ended up buying them, but it's a great fragrance. It's an eau de toilette. It's ambery. It's warm, resinous, a little spicy. I hope you guys got to buy that one. And I guess my video really did, you know, help that fragrance with selling out, because now it's really difficult to find. And one of you contacted me and said you really wanted to buy a bottle, but you can't find it. I hope you guys can find that fragrance, because it's definitely worth it for the price, especially for when it was selling for $10. $11. One more fragrance I forgot about. This is Dunhill for Men. It's a gift set. This is what it looks like. Kind of digging into a lot of old school fragrances, and once again, it's a very old school men's classic fragrance, and I believe this is the first fragrance from Dunhill, and I'm glad to have this one as well. Came with an aftershave balm. Nice. It was fairly inexpensive, and that's pretty much it today. I've taken up a lot of your time. This is a big haul, lots of classics, lots of men's, women's, unisex offerings. Let me know which of these fragrances you have and you like, which of these fragrances you've been wanting to get. Put some comments down so I can find out. Either way, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.